You are listening to Rip's Music Podcast, where we make your music your business. Drummer, educator, and music coach Rip Phelan asks real working musicians to share the keys of their successes.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Rip's Music. And today I have with me a very talented, very entertaining singer, Maylee Thomas. Maylee, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rip.
So I asked you to hear because I'm interviewing professional musicians, people that are in the industry and have found a way to work and make music their career instead of just a hobby. So,
well, I don't. You'd have to ask my husband that because he still thinks it's a hobby.
Maybe he could be in on the next show, right?
Yeah.
So, for people who don't know you at home, give us a little bit of an insight of what your career looks like today.
We've been playing music. I've been playing music in Texas for about 25 years, which just floors me.
Yeah,
that it's been that long. But started out playing in clubs 6 nights a week, and just the brutal grind of playing every night, Monday through Saturday, 9 to 2.
Yeah.
And I did that for probably about 4.5 years.
Okay.
And I finally just got to the place where I went, okay, I'm going to have to, and that was the only way I could survive.
Sure.
And I thought, you know what, I'm going to have to learn to live in the daylight again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right.
So I took on a job where I traveled during the day and Monday through Friday, and then I got home on Fridays about 3 o'clock and then hit it in music for Friday night and Saturday night. Sometimes a show on Sunday.
Sure.
And I did that for years.
Yeah.
And then I've kind of just fallen into a place where after getting married and having kids and marrying a guy that was in the band, which I recommend that highly if you're a girl singer.
Is that right?
Just because otherwise you have no life with your spouse.
Yeah.
And you're gone all the time from them. And they need to have that same passion that you have.
Right.
So that's how it works. That's how I've continued to be able to do this. Is my husband? In fact, I met him because I hired him to be a guitar player in my band. And
so you had your own band, and then you asked him.
And then, we needed a guitar player. Our guitar player moved away, and so I found him, and the rest is history.
I understand. Well, so professional gigging a lot. 25 years. I'm kind of the same way. I've done the whole cover band gig and the whole original project stuff. And you're right. Friday and Saturday, sometimes Thursday nights, you're working all the time. And then you get to where, man, how do I do this? How do I sustain this? Right?
Yeah.
So we're in the guitar sanctuary now. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, this was a passion that George and I had for a long time. When I met him, he had a guitar store before many years ago. And then, got out of that business and went into the same thing that his dad did, which was building. Yeah. But we always said one day we wanted to have a guitar store and a venue. Yeah. So for years, we just dreamed about having our own venue. And it just worked out finally after all these years that everything came together. We were doing this project in this beautiful area called Adriatica. Yeah. And everything just fell into place. We started our store 3 years ago, and a little storefront.
I remember being there.
We just kept blowing out walls and adding more space, and finally realized, okay, if we're going to do it, we need to do it right. And so we built this place from the ground up, and built the venue next to us. And last Saturday, we launched it with our big show with Paul Reed Smith and Ian Moore and David Grissom and our band, and it was great.
Cool.
That's great.
Yeah, it's awesome. I looked at next door, and it's pretty awesome little venue. So I've been the same way. I've always wanted to own a space where I could just play whatever I want. So now it sounds like you guys got it. Well, let's go a little bit. This is a show really about the business side of music. So kind of highlight some of the challenges that you've made along the way, or some of the choices that you've made that instead of going into non-musical stuff. What choices did you make that said, all right, I'm going to do this so I can sustain my music?
Well, I've been singing and performing since I was 14. And I always knew that this was what I wanted to do. I guess some of the decisions that I've made were predicated really on where I was in my life. and as far as, what I needed to do to sustain my life.
Right.
And like I said, the club thing, and also to have product. And I learned early on that one of the best things that you could do was to go in and record something to be able to give people.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was another way for you to bring in some income. And we took advantage of that from the very beginning. And, we have 7 CDs now. We've got another one now that we're ready to do. And
cool.
The nice thing about it is it just keeps you in their mind even when you're not in their face.
Yeah.
And that's important today. And of course, it's a lot different. It's changed so much in the last 20 years just because now everybody downloads things.
Right.
But me, I still love LPs, and I still love looking at the CD and finding out who played on it, and I like to read all that stuff.
Oh yeah, me too. Like some of my favorite bands have musicians that rotate, and you got to look at the liner notes and see who's on that, who's playing that guitar solo, who's playing that.
And maybe recognizing the sound and going, is that who I think it is?
Right. So going a little bit further on that, so you're recording and just recording to have a product. So did you do it grassroots style, like you just?
We've done both. We've done both. I mean, our first, the first record that we did, we started recording here, and then we finished it out in California, in LA, and actually up in Sausalito. It wasn't even LA, at the record plant. Yeah. And we would record during the day. We would finish about 8, 9 o'clock at night, and it was so funny because right next door to us, we just had all these major rockers. In fact, it was Metallica.
Oh, really?
And they were working on a record, and they were doing it from 9 o'clock at night till 9 o'clock in the morning.
Right, yeah. That's awesome.
And so we've done both, and we found that for us, we love to record all the basic tracks ourselves and do it in the studio live, and then just kind of add everything, as we go. And of course, we've done several projects where we had people that flew in for gigs, and we just carted them to the studio.
Sure.
In fact, my favorite story of all is when we met Clarence Clemens, and I'm sure you know by now that we played a lot of gigs with him, and we're very tight with Clarence. My favorite story is one night when we met him at Take 5 down at the West End.
Oh, is that right?
At 2 a.m. after he played with us, we took him down to the studio, and he
played
on 3 songs in the middle of the night.
That's cool. That's always cool. Yeah.
So you couldn't have done that if you weren't doing your own project,
right?
Where where you had access to the studio.
Now, are you doing this? Is all original music?
And
stuff that you and your husband write? Or?
My husband and I co-write probably almost everything, although we do have Andy Timmons. Yeah. And we co-write with him all the time, and then also a good friend of ours out of Nashville named Billy Falcon.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Who's contributed on several songs.
So you're just constantly writing and then coming up with songs?
Yeah,
and then
you know how it is with a writer. I've got napkins and... thankfully a phone now that I can just go in and put notes in. Yep. I remember I sing into it.
I find myself singing in the car too, like on voice memo, just riffs and grooves and stuff like that. Yep. But so how do you make those work for you? You got the CD, you're going in the studio, but how do you get into people? How do you get it in front of people who want to hire you or want to pay for your product?
Well, and nowadays you really have to do a lot of your submissions, just EPKs. I mean, sure. And so if you don't know what that is, electronic press kit. Yeah. Most of the time now you just do everything through the internet, and which I don't know. I think it's a catch-22. I really miss going in and meeting people and talking to them and let them see who I am. Yeah, I can't tell you how many gigs I've gone to play on, and they expected a big black woman to walk in, That's or they heard the name and figured I must be Asian.
Right. Oh, okay.
When really Maylee is just Southern, Southern as you can get. But so I think for the most part, what you do is you submit it to different clubs and different venues, and you just say, "Hey, we'd like to play." And you go in saying, "We'll play for the door," or go in. And the guys don't really like me to submit because I'll do anything for free.
Right? You just want to do it. Just want to get.
They won't even let me buy the merch table anymore because people are just asking how much it is, and I'm going, "Oh, you don't have to pay for it." And they're saying. They just want to know the price. They weren't necessarily wanting it for free.
That's funny. Yeah. our band was like that too. You know, it's like, how much do you just? We can't just give it all away. We got to make some money.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, hence that's why you kind of need somebody else to represent you most of the time, because as an artist, I don't know about you, but for me, it's really just about getting the music out.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, and being paid was just to sustain myself.
Right.
Because I love it so much.
Yeah, yeah.
And I always know, I tell my husband all the time, when I look around and I say, what's the worst thing that can happen? That we lose all of this, but we still can play music.
That's right. That's right.
And so, you know, I have 4 kids still to raise, but
yeah.
So I don't know how far I'm going to get with that, but you know, that really is when you have a passion for music and a passion for the art or passion for whatever it is you do. You do it because you love it, not because it's going to make you money.
Right. You hope that it does make enough money so you can continue to do it.
Obviously we have to live and you have to eat to live, but the bottom line is, I tell my kids all the time, find something that you love.
Sure.
Because if you're going to spend your life doing something, make sure it's something you really love to do.
Right. And, you know, there's been a couple of times where I've tried to leave music, you know, and I just can't escape it. You know,
I don't know how people do it. I mean, I have friends that have done it. I don't see how they do it. I can't even go to a show now.
Right.
In fact, I was at the House of Blues a couple of nights ago to see some friends of mine and play, and the whole time I'm looking back and I'm seeing things that I don't think anybody else is looking at. You know, I want to see the dynamic between the players and what's going on inside. And
I notice all those things too. I can't escape it. I'm listening to everything I listen to is, oh wow, did you hear that? And my wife is like, what?
Well, that's cool that that you can share that, because that's the other thing is, I don't like it when I hear people hook up with somebody that doesn't understand the person they love's desire to play. Yeah,
so that's important. It's good that you found, you know, a musician. But, you know, my wife, she's an accountant, but she loves music.
Well, doesn't she love your passion for it?
Yeah. And in fact, I wouldn't have been introduced to you if it wasn't for her.
Oh,
so she drug me out to a show. Yeah, and I was like, wow, this girl can sing.
That's
cool.
You
know, she has that passion just from an observer side, an audience side, and that's who we're playing for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's who you know, if we're going to continue, we hope there's people out there that want to hear us.
You know, there was someone that said that being true in their art and stuff, because the rest of society needs us as artists, you know, to kind of make the commentaries and make expression that they just have difficulty expressing.
They can't find a way to say.
So it's kind of like our job to make great art.
Gee, we're suffering. Right.
So let's go in a little bit about, I guess, let's talk about a little bit more business sides. So what are some things that you've done, or what are things that you constantly do? You know, you mentioned the EPK, you mentioned, you know, now that it's changed, it's more internet-based, but you still... what are these like business type things that you do to make sure that you're still involved in music?
I'm a big believer in getting your music on sites. So I chose CD Baby and iTunes and all those, because it's just so easy now. It's so easy to do that, and they track everything for you. And I'm a big believer in keeping in constant contact with your fans. And, I think it's real important when you go to shows that you get their information if they're interested in you, and have them fill it out and be able to keep in constant contact with them, because these are the people that are going to come out and see you. Right. And you know, you need to keep your name in front of them, and so that's really important, I think. And probably most important is to keep yourself fresh. Sure. You know, and kind of stay in touch with what you love, so that you can portray it. And you know, because when you get stale, people can tell. And I mean that's why I kind of quit doing corporate stuff, because I got to a place where you know, I wanted to do the original music, and it was just killing me to go out and sing all this other stuff that I just wasn't feeling, and that's not me. You know, I was in that same thing. I left the original project I was in, and just because, you know, things fall apart when you're bands. And then I started doing cover band stuff, and I could play the material, and it was fun. But, you know, the singer, the lead guy, I could tell. I was like, man, you're not really into this. And I was like, really? I guess, yeah, you're right. It's kind of this
pop stuff, you know, and I want to play.
Well, I'm not trying to put down any kind of music, but for me, I wanted to stay authentic to what I felt, and you know, I don't want to try to sound like somebody else. I want to sound like me.
Yeah.
You know, I just want to be me. I want to organically sing the way that I was created to sing, and that's not to say I can't do cover songs, because we do. We cover a lot of songs. I'm sure you know, but they definitely don't sound exactly like the original. Right.
You got to put your own spin on
it. We try not to take them so far away that they're unrecognizable, because that's not cool either. What's
I remember hearing you guys recently, and I was like, I recognize this tune, but this is not like the record, which was really cool. Yeah. And I'm a big fan of that. I was a big jazz guy for a long time, and so we always do that. You know, hear the melody, but everything else is almost fair game.
Well, and there's some songs that you just you just shouldn't try to change.
Right? Yeah, they're just
there are some like that. Leave them alone. But but for the most part, I do pretty much the kind of music that I like to do now, which is nice to get to that place. Mm-hmm.
So, what kind of personal practice do you have to maintain your skills? You're a singer. Do you do any piano work too?
You caught me at a bad time, because with the store, and with our foundation, and with everything that's going on, we in fact we made a joke of it a couple of weeks ago. George and I were talking. We wanted to try a new song, so basically what we do, the guys, is we'd call them on the phone on the way to the gig.
Right.
We hum it over the phone. Yeah. We give them a little, but we've been together for so long that, you know, we can get away with that.
Sure.
We pretty much know, everybody kind of feels and knows by now what I'm going to do with something.
Right.
And that's cool. That only comes with, you know, having been with them for so long.
Right. How long have you been with this current band?
Gosh, I think some of them I've been with probably 12 years, maybe more.
That's good. That makes a solid group. And I can hear it every time you guys perform. So
yeah, and they're all doing it because they love it.
Sure.
You know, fortunately now, most of us are in a place where we've made some decisions to do some other things to supplement. Yeah. And so now, you know, this is just the icing on the cake.
Right. The fun project.
Yeah.
Well, talk about that supplementation, because that's something. That's the reason this podcast exists. Okay. You know, is a way to build an audience and stuff to kind of supplement. You know, I want to play, but I got to pay the bills, and playing gigs at clubs doesn't always pay what you need it to. So I teach on the side and do other things. And
again, but you're still doing something in music.
That's right. And that's the trick.
We have this guitar store.
Yeah.
And we have the venue. So again, we still found a way on the business side to stay into something that we were passionate about.
Right.
I mean, I get the biggest kick out of. We have one of our students. Her name is. I just can't believe I can't think of it for a second. But her middle name is Grace. Okay. Anyway, she came out and played with us Saturday night, and she's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, truly awesome. 13 years old, writes and plays.
That's awesome.
And I got a lot of thrill out of seeing this next generation rise up.
Oh, yeah.
And knowing that, you know, I play a very small part, but still a part in her life, because she's coming and learning and honing in on her craft here.
That's cool.
So in a way, I have found a way to still stay in the business side of it and make a living. But,
sure.
You know, even, you know, pass it on to another person.
Yeah.
Dory Grace is her name, by the way.
Dory Grace. Look out for her, right? So, so you have the Guitar Sanctuary, and I'm, if you don't mind, I'd like to shoot some B-roll.
Absolutely.
You know, show it, because it's a beautiful place. And the store before, you know, you moved to this location was pretty cool too, but this one is super nice. So
this is that store on steroids.
That's right. Sure. So you guys it's basically a high-end guitar shop. Right.
Well, it's probably, you know, I mean, we can say high-end, although we do have a lot of entry-level guitars because we have a school.
Yeah.
You know, we have the Performance Academy, so we have to offer some guitars. But my husband is a real believer in quality. Yeah. And, you know, I mean, he stands behind the idea that although you don't have to have the most expensive guitar, you really do have to have a guitar that's made well. Yeah. You know, because if the neck gets warped or the bridge is funky, and I mean, it really does have something to do with the way that it sounds. Yeah. And I guess the best example is we had a kid that was playing guitar for about a year on his own in a room, and he had an old beat-up guitar that he had, and the neck was all warped. And he played it, and his dad brought him into the store and decided, okay, we're going to step up into a nice guitar, and bought him a nice entry-level Paul Reed Smith guitar. And the kid picked it up and started playing it and was so shocked at how good it sounded. He even said, well, I didn't know I could play this well. He said, well, you were playing the exact same thing you played on the other guitar. So that's probably, one of the reasons why we have been successful in this market is because we don't try to upsell anybody. Right. We know that you're going to buy what you love. Mm-hmm. But we also want to offer what we know is going to last.
Sure. Quality stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I tell my drum students, you can buy the cheapest thing, but you're going to have to modify some things. And I'm always telling them the first thing you're going to have to replace is this, and then you're going to have to get one of these. Right. And, so go ahead and go cheap if you want, because you want to grow into the instrument, but eventually you're going to. Well,
and as well as I do, there's some great quality product out there that's not real expensive.
Right. Yeah. So you guys have guitars and basses and amps and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And you also have a little kind of clothing thing that's your little corner down there.
I do. I finally graduated into out of the corner in the back, the afterthought, to what we call the, what do they call it? The equalizer room, or the Maylee land. But really it's more like the domestic equalizer, because for all you women and wives that have spent hours and hours in guitar stores with nothing to do, I felt like I wanted to give you something. So, and then in doing so, we're also giving to women and children, because the store helps benefit the Love Life Foundation, which is a heart, close to my heart, for abused women and children.
And that's something you founded, right?
Yeah,
the
we
Love
founded
Life
it
Foundation.
22 years ago.
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit more about that. That's something that's close to you.
It's a foundation that was started because as a child I was sexually abused and by a stepdad, and that back then you didn't talk about it.
Sure.
It was very difficult to prosecute. Mm-hmm. There were no advocacy centers, and since that time, thank goodness, they've come up with some ways where these guys can be put behind bars and the child's not traumatized any more than they already were.
Sure.
But I always said I wanted to do something one day, and we were given the opportunity as musicians to play and to speak out.
Right.
And it's been very rewarding on so many levels, not just financially to help so many organizations, but also emotionally. Yeah. To speak out and have people come up to me and say, you know what, thank goodness you were able to tell your story, because now I feel compelled to tell mine.
Yeah, yeah. The advocacy needs to be there.
Absolutely, and to not associate with the stigma.
Right.
Because these are heinous acts that happen to people, and they shouldn't.
Right. They shouldn't, and then
there's nothing they did to deserve it, and they shouldn't be ashamed that it happened. It's,
And it's good that you're there to create a community around that, to fight against it, and then also to support people who need it.
Well, and I think it's been silenced for too long. Yeah. It's time for us to just bring it out in the open, so that these perpetrators, don't feel like they can hide behind it. Right. Because nobody's going to tell. Yeah.
It's one thing if everybody's hush-hush about it, but if everybody is very against it, then it's really hard to get away with it. So. Well,
and I think the biggest platform now that we have is getting men involved. Mm-hmm. And that's what I loved about from the very beginning is my husband was, spoke out against it and continues to. Yeah. And now I think even on a national level, we're having more men stand up. And I know the mayor of Dallas just did a big event to get men to speak out against domestic violence.
That's good,
and so I think that's going to be a key.
Well, what about, so that's actually one unique way to use your unique skills and talents to help something bigger than yourself, and that's something I talked to with somebody recently about, how do we get our art to be bigger than us? And that's that's kind of like the key to being successful in any industry is making it more than yourself. And so,
well, I think the key with that, truly, Rip, is for you to understand that the purpose behind you getting the music out is not to bring it back to you.
Yeah.
but to have it grow legs and continue on and help others and fly, basically, and reach everybody else.
Sure.
And,
That's cool.
That, to me, is the key.
Here are some insights from today's show. Number 1, as we get older, life changes the demands it has on us. We get into relationships, have families, more responsibilities, and time and money become a more challenging commodity. But that doesn't mean you have to give up your music or any other passion. It does mean that you have to change how you leverage your time and your income so you can still honor your music and your relationships. Maylee and her husband George continue to perform and record regularly despite having kids, building multiple businesses, and running a benefit foundation. Making choices that honor their music and their family needs is key to their success. They both integrate into their lives a sense of giving back and giving fully with their music and the other responsibilities. Are you using your responsibilities or your family as an excuse not to chase your dreams? Try integrating your music choices that also honor your family. Many churches pay their musicians. If you attend a weekly service, offer to help with the music ministry. They may have been waiting for someone like you to come along and bring the family. You can also look for festivals and charity events to get your music out there. These types of gigs could be more family friendly if working the bar scene conflicts with your other obligations. Number 2, the old rules of marketing still apply in the internet age. We're just no longer limited by distance. You have to remind people of who you are and what you do constantly. With the information overload that's happening, it's even more important to connect consistently with your audience. I struggle with this too. However, I've come across some great resources to help. Check out the people at copyblogger.com. They focus on creating a community of people that blend sales, marketing, and engaging a community. They have tons of articles and even a 20-part internet marketing course, and it's all free to register. If you apply just a little bit of the concepts they share, you can see your music career make more lucrative changes. People want to know about the entirety of the music process, so share it. Number 3, Maylee says to always have a product, so make sure to have plenty of CDs to hand out. Look for ways to bring other people in on your project. Being a musician, for 90% of us, isn't about having overnight rock star success. It's about creating and sharing the music with others. Team up with a writing partner. Help someone else produce their music. The idea is to keep working with others. And don't forget about the clubs and the sound guys and the event planners. Keep in touch with them too. When they need a band and they know your name, well, they better have your music. Number 4, use your unique skills and talents for something bigger than yourself. Find a cause that you believe in and support it by offering to perform or organize the music. Maylee took a personal tragedy and created the Love Life Foundation as vehicle for change. She uses her music to attract awareness to her cause. She focuses on giving all of herself to what she believes in. That sense of giving fuels her and brings her the success she's experienced in her life. Now, let's get back to the show.
What are some things that you would tell any aspiring musician, whether it be a vocalist or a bass player or a drummer, anyone who wants to get serious into music as a business or as a career choice? What are some things that you would say, look out for these, do this more, do this less,
I think first and foremost, I would probably encourage them to not ever feel like that any gig is beneath them. When I started out playing in bands in high school, we played at Rotary Club and everything.
Yeah.
Because the best way for you to get better is to play.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's why with our school, we call it a performance academy. The reality is, as you know, Rip, and I know that most people are not going to be rock stars and play on a level that, everybody says that they aspire to be at. Personally, there's a lot of stuff that comes with that that I don't aspire to have.
Right.
I don't want some camera in my face everywhere I go eating something and having it dribble down my face, or taking a picture of my butt and all the cellulite and blowing it up. that's just not what I'm doing this for. So
right, yeah.
But so most people though, they're going to use their craft and their gift on a daily basis for things like singing to friends and to in churches or at gatherings and in drama or plays or musicals or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
And so just get out there and play.
Yeah.
And don't think of yourself as being too great to do any kind of gig. And my favorite movie of all time is probably Spinal Tap and the Rocker because it really does show what it's all about.
Sure, yeah.
It just really does show that if you love what you do, you're going to play even if it's, to 10 people. I tell people all the time because I had a guy actually tell me in a band one time, you always sing like it's the last time you're going to sing.
Yeah.
Why do you do that? Well, do you know if it is or isn't?
Yeah, true.
I mean, I'm going to sing the same. I mean, whether it's 10 people or 100 or 10,000.
And and you could tell that's why some of your success has happened because you just go out there and let it all out. You're not going to hold it back just because this isn't such a great gig. We're just going to play tame. It's like rock it out.
Yeah, my husband always says, I didn't come out here to lay up.
That's good. So I guess very briefly, you're saying play all the time or whatever. What are some things that, one last little bit of advice, someone who does want to take it more professionally, not just because they love it, but they want to be serious about it. Maybe highlight a little bit of some other income streams that you have, or maybe a suggestion.
I mean, don't be afraid to hook up with somebody for sure. Especially if, I know that right now what's really big is if you can write, because
it's helpful.
Publishing and having your own material is huge.
Sure.
And a lot of kids are like, I don't know how to write a song. So you know how to write a letter? Do you know how to speak to someone? Just put that to music. And, don't feel like there has to be a formula. Yeah. Because that's bogus.
Yeah. As soon as you come up with one, it's
obsolete. I mean, I know that, I've watched all these documentaries about Motown writers and all this, and I know that a lot of times they had a formula, and you pretty much could hear, that they had a verse, chorus, verse, middle eight, chorus, outro. Yeah. And that works for some tunes, I'm sure, but you don't have to do that.
Right.
And so don't be afraid to explore, with other people maybe too, and write with other people. But I guess, Rip, the main thing to me is just to don't be afraid.
Yeah, just get out there.
Just don't be afraid to explore all kinds of ways of getting your music out and getting it out, getting the word out.
That's awesome.
And of course, now that there's internet, gosh, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's almost saturated. It's almost too much.
It's just crazy what you can do. Yeah. And with YouTube and all the stuff that is out there and able to get to people that we had to write a letter to and wait for a week and a half to hear if they even wrote back or make a phone call and leave a message.
Right. Yeah, I remember trying to work with people in Chicago or something like that for a record deal, and you're like, 2 weeks later, did they get it? You're waiting on. So now it's just Skype.
I can remember when you couldn't even leave a message.
Sure, yeah.
You just had to call and let it ring 1,000 times.
Yeah, oh man. So where can we find out a little bit more about Maylee and the Sanctuary?
Well, as everybody, we all have websites and Facebook. And you can do a search on Google and
just
a lot of stuff comes up. A lot of stuff I'm not happy about, but there's pictures out there. I'm like, how can my kids, they just crack up, because they'll sit with their friends and pull up stuff and bring it to me and look at it and go, I've never seen that before. Didn't know that was out there. Yeah. But we have a website, which is Maylee.com. Okay. And then we have a Facebook, Maylee Thomas Band. Sure. We have the Guitar Sanctuary. Yeah. We have The Sanctuary.
And those are joined, by the way.
Yeah, so we have the Guitar Sanctuary is our store, and then the Sanctuary is our venue.
Cool. And also your...
and then the foundation is Love Life Foundation.
Love Life Foundation. Cool. My wife mentioned she wants to volunteer for your Christmas event.
So. Yeah, so we do Christmas wrapping.
Cool.
So I tell her to come wrap some presents.
Awesome. And well, everybody, thank you, Maylee Thomas. Make sure to check her out. And
Love life.
We'll see you next time.
Do you have a question about being a pro musician? Leave a comment and I'll include it in an upcoming episode. And please, tell me what you think of the show. Be sure to subscribe to my channel so you never miss an episode. Go to ripsmusic.com for show notes and resources. There you can find links to all my social media. And thanks for listening.